Captain Daniel Curtis stood in the corridor outside the medical wing of Station Horizon, waiting for his orders. He was a soldier, not a nurse. He had spent 15 years protecting human interests across 3 star systems. He had fought in the Kepler Colony Wars. He had led teams through asteroid fields and negotiated with hostile alien traders. But nothing in his service record had prepared him for this. Commander Harper appeared from around the corner, moving fast. She looked tired. The peace talks with the Dominion had been going on for 6 months. 6 months of tension. 6 months of wondering if humanity would be destroyed or saved. "Curtis," she said, stopping in front of him. "You got the briefing?" "Some of it," Daniel said. "There's an alien queen on this station. She's injured. I'm supposed to care for her." "That's what I understood." "That's correct," Harper said. "Her name is Kesvara. She's from the Dominion. Her ship was attacked 3 days ago. We don't know who attacked it. The Dominion says it was enemies of peace. They want her protected. They won't trust their own people with her care. They say they fear more attacks." Daniel nodded. This made sense. The Dominion had enemies across the galaxy. That was what happened when you ruled thousands of worlds. "Why me?" he asked. "Your psychological evaluation scores are the highest we have," Harper said. "You handle stress without breaking. You think clearly when things go wrong. You respect authority, but you don't follow orders blindly. And you have experience with non-human communication. That matters. What's she like?" Daniel asked. Harper paused. She looked uncomfortable. "That's the thing. We don't have much information. The Dominion hasn't shared details. What we know is that she's injured and angry. She's also dangerous. She has sharp edges on her body. She's made that clear. Several medical staff have been cut just trying to help her. She told us she would only accept care from a human male with military training." "Why a male? Why military training?" "We don't know," Harper said. "Maybe she respects strength. Maybe she thinks a soldier will understand her." The Dominion Council seemed to think this was a reasonable request. "So here we are." Daniel took a breath. "When do I start?" "Now," Harper said. "She's in Medical Bay 7. Dr. Patel will brief you on her injuries. Don't get too close at first. Learn her movements. The translation device on her wrist will help you understand her. She can understand human speech without it, but she prefers to speak through the device." They walked together toward Medical Bay 7. The station was busy. Dominion representatives walked past them. They were tall beings made of something that looked like crystal or metal. They moved with a grace that suggested they were not like humans at all. Some had multiple limbs. Some had appendages that seemed to serve no clear purpose. One had eyes that looked like nothing on Earth, but Kesvara was different. When Daniel entered the medical bay, he saw her immediately. She lay on a reinforced medical table that had been specially built for her size. She was larger than the other Dominion beings Daniel had seen. Her body was sharp and angular, covered in what looked like dark crystalline surfaces that caught the light. Her edges were not smooth. They were edges like broken glass or sharpened stone. Some areas of her body seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. There were damaged sections where her crystalline surface had cracked or shattered. Medical patches covered some of these wounds. Her eyes were closed, but they opened the moment Daniel entered the bay. They were not eyes like human eyes. They glowed with a pale gold light. They looked straight at him, and Daniel felt something in his chest tighten. This being had seen things he could not imagine. This being had power he could not measure. Dr. Patel was standing near the medical table, keeping her distance. She looked relieved to see Daniel. "Captain," she said quietly, "thank you for coming. She's stable now, but her injuries are severe. The crystalline structure of her body is partially shattered. We've done basic repairs, but she needs rest and careful handling. She needs someone to help her move, to monitor her condition, to ensure she doesn't worsen. Daniel looked at Kesvara. She was still watching him. Her gaze did not move. What does she need? Daniel asked. Food and water, mainly. Her physiology is different from ours, but she can consume nutrients from standard meal rations. She needs her injuries monitored. She needs rest. And she needs not to be afraid that someone will hurt her while she's weak. Daniel understood. The queen was vulnerable. In her world, vulnerability meant death. He stepped forward, slowly, showing his hands empty. He kept his movements smooth and predictable. My name is Daniel Curtis, he said clearly. I'm assigned to care for you. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you recover. The translation device on Kesvara's wrist glowed. It spoke in a voice that was not quite human. The voice was sharp and cold. I know who you are, Captain Curtis. Your record has been examined. You are a soldier. You have killed. You have sacrificed others for your cause. You understand hierarchy and strength. I do, Daniel said. Then you will understand this, Kesvara said. I am not weak in my heart. I am weak only in my form. When I heal, I will remember everyone who sees me in this state. I will remember every moment of shame. I will remember if anyone here treats me with pity or disrespect. Daniel heard the threat beneath the words. He heard what would happen if he failed. I will treat you with the respect you deserve, Daniel said, and I will help you get strong again. Kesvara's glowing eyes narrowed. We will see if humans can be trustworthy, Captain Curtis. We will see if your species is worth protecting. Daniel realized then that this was not just about caring for an injured alien. This was about humanity's future. The Dominion would judge all of humanity based on how he treated one queen. The weight of that knowledge settled on his shoulders like a physical thing. He pulled up a chair next to the medical table, keeping a respectful distance from Kesvara's sharp edges. We'll start whenever you're ready, he said in that moment. The real test began. 3 days into his assignment, Daniel understood that his military training had not prepared him for this. Kesvara was not a soldier following orders. She was not a diplomat choosing words carefully. She was a being of pure will and intelligence, and she did not tolerate mistakes. His first major error happened on the morning of the second day. Daniel attempted to help Kesvara stand. She had been lying on the medical table for too long, and the doctor said she needed to move to prevent her injuries from getting worse. Daniel approached carefully, offering his hand as support. Kesvara turned sharply. Her arm, covered in jagged crystalline edges, nearly cut across his chest. Daniel jumped back, but not fast enough. Blood appeared on his uniform. Do not ever assume I need your help without asking, Kesvara said through the translation device. Do not ever touch me without permission. Daniel pressed his hand against the cut. It was not deep, but it burned. He realized he had been arrogant. He had thought that because she was injured, she needed his assistance. He had not considered that she might have her own way of doing things. I apologize, he said. Your apology means nothing, Kesvara said. Your understanding matters. Do you comprehend the difference? Yes, Daniel said. I understand. He learned quickly after that. He learned to ask before offering help. He learned that Kesvara moved with careful deliberation, calculating every motion to avoid cutting herself on her own body. He learned that she was in constant pain, but she did not complain about it. She simply accepted it and worked within its limits. When Daniel brought her meals, he placed them at a distance and let her approach. When she needed the medical patches changed, he asked permission first and waited for her to tell him how. She would often guide his hands, making sure he understood her body and its fragility. The outer layer is strongest, she told him one day as he cleaned an injury on her shoulder. "The layers beneath are more delicate. If you press too hard on this section, you will cause ruptures in the internal structures." "How do I know how hard is too hard?" Daniel asked. "You listen," Kesvara said. "You listen to the sound the crystal makes. You feel the resistance. You pay attention to my responses. A being who cares enough to observe will not cause unnecessary harm." Daniel began to see something else in those conversations. Kesvara was testing him. She was not just teaching him how to care for her body. She was teaching him how to respect her as a being, as a warrior, as a queen. On the 5th day, Daniel made a mistake that could have been serious. He knocked over a water container while pouring it, and some of the liquid splashed toward Kesvara. He immediately tensed, expecting a violent reaction. Instead, Kesvara simply moved with impossible speed, avoiding the water. She said nothing about his mistake. "Thank you," Daniel said, meaning it. "For what?" Kesvara asked. "For not being angry. For giving me a chance to do better." Kesvara's glowing eyes fixed on him. "I have observed human behavior, Captain Curtis. Humans often demand forgiveness for their failures. They expect those they have wronged to accept their apologies and move forward. This is weakness. True respect is earned by doing better next time, not by being excused for the current failure. You will do better. That is all that matters." Over the following days, Daniel began to understand her. She was not cruel. She was direct. She did not waste time on pity or soft feelings. She measured people by their actions and their will to improve. She respected strength, but not the strength of weapons or physical power. She respected the strength of character, the will to keep trying even when the task was hard. One evening, as Daniel changed the bandages on her injuries, Kesvara asked him a question. "Why you stay here, Captain Curtis? You could have requested transfer. No human would fault you for finding this assignment difficult." Daniel considered the question carefully. "Because you needed help. Because my commander assigned me this duty. Because I gave you my word that I would help you recover." "Is your word so valuable?" Kesvara asked. "Where I come from, it is," Daniel said. "A human is only as good as his word. If I break it for convenience or comfort, I become unreliable. I become someone who cannot be trusted." Kesvara was quiet for a long moment. "That is interesting. The Dominion has not encountered this concept in many species. Most beings keep their word only when it benefits them. Most beings abandon their commitments when the cost becomes too high. Maybe that's why the Dominion dominates," Daniel said. "Maybe you encounter species that have given up on believing in anything larger than themselves." "Perhaps," Kesvara said. "Or perhaps we have never truly observed a species like yours before." Daniel finished the bandage work and stepped back. Kesvara was moving better now. Her injuries were healing. In another week, she would probably be able to walk without assistance. In 2 weeks, she might be ready to leave the station. Daniel did not want to think about that. He had grown to respect this being. She was nothing like the humans he had served with. She was harder. She was colder. But she was also honest in a way that most humans were not. She did not pretend to be kind. She did not hide behind false words. She simply was, and she expected others to be the same. "You are a strange human, Captain Curtis," Kesvara said as he was leaving for the night. "How so?" Daniel asked. "You do not ask for anything. You do not complain. You do not seek reward or recognition. You simply fulfill your duty. This is uncommon among your species." Daniel smiled. "Maybe, or maybe you just bring out the best in people. Maybe respect goes both ways." Kesvara's eyes glowed brighter for just a moment. "We will see, Captain Curtis. We will see what you and your kind are truly made of." The attack came at night when the station was quiet and the medical wing was staffed by skeleton crew. Daniel was asleep in the small room they had assigned him near the medical bay when his internal alarm clock woke him. He had always been a light sleeper, a habit from military service. Some sound or vibration had disturbed him. He was dressed and alert within seconds. The station was not supposed to have security issues. The Dominion had assured everyone that the attacking force would not find this location. The Dominion had promised protection, but promises meant nothing if enemies were clever enough or determined enough. Daniel moved quietly through the corridors toward the medical bay. He did not activate any alarms yet. He needed to know what he was facing. As he approached, he saw 3 figures near the entrance to the medical wing. They wore Dominion uniforms, but something about them was wrong. Their movements were too stiff. Their positioning suggested combat training. Daniel recognized the signs of a professional assault team. He pulled the security access panel on a nearby wall and locked down the medical bay entrance. Alarms blared throughout the station, but the locked door would buy him time. Daniel activated his personal communicator to call for backup, but before he could speak, the 3 figures turned and saw him. "Fall back," one of them commanded in the Dominion language. They saw Daniel and realized they had been discovered. They were no longer interested in stealth. One of them fired a weapon at the locked medical bay door. The energy blast scorched the metal but did not penetrate. These were not military-grade weapons. They were assassin weapons designed to target a specific individual, not to breach fortifications. Daniel drew his service blaster and took cover behind a maintenance panel. The 3 attackers advanced toward him, spreading out to create multiple angles. Daniel had faced worse odds before, but not often. "The Queen is under station protection," Daniel called out. "Stand down or be terminated." The attackers did not respond. They simply kept advancing, firing as they moved. Daniel returned fire, taking careful aim. His first shot caught one of the attackers in the shoulder, spinning them around. His second shot hit the next attacker in the leg. The third one dove for cover behind a cargo container. Daniel used the moment to advance toward the medical bay, keeping his back to the locked door. Now he was positioned between the attackers and Kesvara. That was all that mattered. The third attacker emerged from behind the cargo container and fired twice in rapid succession. Daniel felt the heat of the energy blasts pass close to his head. He fired back and saw the attacker fall, but the first one was getting back up, blood flowing from the shoulder wound. This one was trained. This one knew how to fight through pain. The attacker raised the weapon again, and Daniel fired first, hitting the target's center mass. The attacker collapsed. The second one was crawling backward, trying to reach the safety of the shadows. Daniel did not shoot a wounded enemy. The station security forces would handle the cleanup. Everything had happened in the span of 30 seconds. Daniel stood against the medical bay door, breathing hard, his blaster still raised. His hands were steady, but his heart was pounding. Behind him, he could hear movement from inside the medical bay. Kesvara was awake. Kesvara had seen everything. He did not move from the door. He kept his weapon ready in case more attackers came. Security personnel arrived within minutes, the sound of their footsteps echoing down the corridor. Commander Harper was with them. "Curtis, status," she commanded. 3 attackers, Daniel said, still facing the direction where the danger had been. 1 dead, 2 incapacitated. No breach of the medical bay. The Queen is safe. Harper moved past him, checking on the attackers. She signaled for medical personnel to come. Then she opened the medical bay door and looked inside. Daniel turned to see what Kesvara's reaction would be. The alien queen was standing at her medical table, still wounded, still weak, but watching everything with those glowing gold eyes. She was looking at Daniel. "You protected me," she said through the translation device. Yes, Daniel said. That's my duty. No, Kesvara said, and something in the translated voice sounded different. Something that might have been emotion. Duty would have been to call security and stand aside. Duty would have been to let others handle the threat. You chose to stand alone against attackers who outnumbered you. You chose to risk death to keep me safe. Why would you do this? Daniel lowered his weapon. Because you matter. Because I gave you my word that I would help you recover. Because protecting someone is more important than protecting yourself. Commander Harper looked between them, clearly understanding that something significant had just happened, even if she did not understand the exact nature of it. We need to move her, Harper said to Daniel. We need to get her to a safer location on the station. No, Kesvara said loudly, the translation device amplifying her voice. I will remain here. Captain Curtis will continue to guard me. No one else. Harper's eyebrows rose. She looked at Daniel, who simply nodded. If that's what the Queen wants, Daniel said after Harper left with her security team. Daniel stayed inside the medical bay with Kesvara. He remained alert, his weapon ready, but he stood beside her medical table rather than outside the door. You could have been killed, Kesvara said. Yes, Daniel said. And you understood this. You understood the probability of death, and you stood against those attackers anyway. Yes, Kesvara made a sound that might have been laughter in her own language. You are not like other beings the Dominion has encountered. You are something different. Your species is something different. Daniel said nothing. He simply remained at his post, alert for any further threat, knowing that something between him and the alien queen had fundamentally changed. Kesvara's injuries healed faster after the assassination attempt. Daniel noticed that she moved with more determination, as if the attack had given her purpose. She spent less time resting and more time talking, asking questions about humanity and about Daniel's own life. One evening, about 10 days after the attack, Kesvara asked Daniel to sit down near her medical table. There was something different in her tone. The sharpness was still there, but underneath, it was something else. Something that Daniel did not have a word for. I need to tell you something, she said through the translation device. Something that is not in any official report. Something that only the Dominion Council knows. Daniel sat down. I'm listening. I was not sent here only to negotiate peace, Kesvara said. I was sent here to evaluate your species, to determine whether humanity deserves to survive or whether you should be conquered and absorbed into the Dominion. Daniel had suspected something like this, but hearing it stated directly was different. It meant his every action, his every interaction with Kesvara had been a test. And what have you concluded? He asked. I concluded that you are dangerous, Kesvara said. Not because of your weapons. Your weapons are primitive. I concluded that you are dangerous because of what you are capable of becoming. The Dominion has encountered thousands of species. We have conquered 90% of them. Do you know what determines whether a species survives conquest? Strength? Daniel guessed. No, Kesvara said. Intelligence? No. Adaptability? No. The species that survive conquest are those that do not value anything more than their own survival. They are the species that will abandon their young, their families, their moral codes to preserve themselves. They are the species that will sacrifice their own people without hesitation. These species are easy to conquer because they have nothing worth defending except their own lives. Daniel understood where this was going. But humans are different, he said. Exactly. Kesvara said. Humans will die for abstract concepts. You will die for honor. You will die to protect strangers. You will die to keep your word. I have read your history. You have wars that last generations. You have killed millions of your own kind over ideas. This is insanity to the Dominion. This is weakness. But you think it's something else, Daniel said. I know it's something else, Kesvara said. I have lived for more than 800 of your years. I have served the Dominion Council for 300 of those years. I have never seen a species with the capacity you have for sacrifice. When you stood against those assassins, you were not acting rationally. No rational being accepts death to protect a stranger. No rational being chooses duty over survival. Yet you did this without hesitation. Daniel said nothing. The Dominion Council voted. Kesvara continued. The vote was to classify humanity as a threat and to move for immediate conquest. I was the only dissenting voice. They did not understand why I disagreed. They said that any species willing to die for meaningless reasons would be easy to control through fear. What changed their minds? Daniel asked. Nothing, Kesvara said. They've not changed their minds. But I have the authority to delay a conquest vote for one rotation of your Earth around your sun. 1 year. In that time, I can gather evidence that humanity has something the Dominion does not. Something that the Dominion needs. What is that? Daniel asked, although he thought he already knew. The will to create something greater than yourself, Kesvara said. The ability to care more about others than about power. The strength to choose mercy instead of victory. These are not weaknesses, Captain Curtis. These are the foundation of civilizations that last. The Dominion has lasted 10,000 years, but we are hollow. We consume and conquer, but we do not build. We do not love. We do not sacrifice for anything except the continuation of the Dominion itself. We are becoming weak in ways that no external enemy can exploit. Daniel leaned forward. So you want me to help you prove that humanity should be protected? I want you to help me understand why you and your kind do what you do, Kesvara said. The Council will not listen to me unless I can explain this in terms they understand. They will not accept philosophy. They will only accept logic. Help me find the logical foundation for human behavior. Help me prove to them that protecting humanity is in the Dominion's best interest. Over the next week, Daniel and Kesvara talked through the nights. Daniel shared stories from human history. He told her about the people who had given everything for causes they believed in. He told her about the families that protected each other across wars and generations. He told her about the strangers who had risked their lives for other strangers. Kesvara listened and asked questions. She pushed Daniel to explain why these actions made sense. She demanded logic where Daniel offered sentiment. But slowly, she began to build a framework that the Dominion Council might understand. You see, she said one night, a species that will sacrifice for each other, that will trust each other, that will create bonds stronger than individual survival. Such a species will advance further and faster than one based on fear and control. The Dominion has conquered territory, but we have not conquered the universe. Your species, in the brief time you have existed, has shown more capacity for growth than any species I have observed. Then you think the Council will listen? Daniel asked. No, Kesvara said, but I think I can present them with evidence they cannot ignore. And I think your actions will continue to provide that evidence. When Kesvara stood for the first time without assistance, Daniel was there. She was still weak, but she was mobile. She looked at Daniel with those glowing gold eyes and said something that had no translation from her language. What does that mean? Daniel asked. There is no human word for it, Kesvara said. It means something between respect and kinship. Something between admiration and affection. It is a feeling the Dominion no longer experiences. Maybe that's why you're different from them, Daniel said. Perhaps, Kesvara agreed. And perhaps that is why your species deserves the chance to prove what you can become.